This is The Fitting Lab, an EVE Online ship fitting video series. Today, we're breaking down the often utilised and always underappreciated gold-wrapped boulder from the Amarr Empire. It's as hard as the overcooked scones from your granny, and surprisingly, as versatile as your childhood Swiss Army knife. It's the Punisher. And welcome back to the Fitting Lab, where today we are looking once again at a Tech 1 frigate, that is of course the Punisher. And today I'm very happy to say that once again I am joined by my good friend Methea Selenis. How are we today, Methea?
Hello, Rico. I'm fine, thank you. Ready to get punished.
Well, hopefully with the fits that we will be showcasing today, you two will be able to undock in this ship and I guess hopefully deal out a little bit of punishment of your own. Now, this ship might initially seem like it's a little bit of a one-trick pony, particularly with the way you see other players fitting this ship. Most people are just fitting this as like a tanky brick, which pretty much just sits there and eats damage. But there's actually quite a few different things that you can do with this, with having a lot of low slots and a lot of high slots with a lot of turret hardpoints as well. So let's take a look here at the info on the Punisher and the traits here. So we have a 10% reduction to small energy turret activation cost, which kind of means that we don't necessarily have to use lasers with this ship because we're not getting a damage bonus with this ship. We're just getting a cap bonus with it. And also because we've got a lot of turret hardpoints and a lot of high slots, we can switch out to another weapon system and still get quite a lot of DPS out of the Punisher. And of course, with the 4% bonuses to armor resistances per level for the Amarr frigate skill, we can have quite good tank with the Punisher here as well. Taking a look now at the fitting for the Punisher, we have of course 4 highs, which we talked about, and 4 turret hardpoints, so no utility highs there. We have 2 mid slots, which for like a PvP ship, kind of limits your options quite a bit, I suppose. But even so, with having 5 low slots, there is actually some interesting things that we can do with the Punisher here. And of course, we have 3 rigs, which is, I guess, pretty standard for a Tech 1 frigate. So let's go in and take a look at the 4 fits, which we have here today. So the first one is a Fleet Punisher. So just generally with the Punisher, me and Methea were just talking about generally how we can get around the problems that we might face with this ship with just having the 2 mid slots here. So basically you're looking at either kiting, so not having to use a web, or using an oversized prop mod fit, which we've got some of here, or being in a gang. So this first fit here is for a gang, and obviously if we're in a gang, then we can have maybe 3 or 4 ships where 2 of them have webs and then 1 or 2 of them have a scram, so that we can get enough tackle onto whatever it is we are fighting. So with this gang fit here, we're looking at light ion blasters, so it's a blaster Punisher, and with this we're gonna get about 250 DPS with antimatter here. If we heat these, you can see we're getting 225 DPS here with the blasters, so quite good DPS. And then we have pretty much 10k tank as well, so a pretty good little gang ship. And then there's different things you can do here, like fitting. There are some fits where you fit like 2 400mm plates, which you can get even up to 20k EHP on a Punisher. So I guess a lot of the fits you are going to find for a Punisher are going to be gimmicky, super tanky fits. That's something you're going to find quite often in low sec.
Yeah, this is pretty much one of the standards way to fit a Punisher. with the bonuses. So you fit blasters because it's just the highest DPS weapon you can get on it. You fit a bunch of tank. Here we have a resist tank, because like in this composition you could add 1 or 2 Logifreaks and actually you will repair a lot on it. Or you could go, as you said, there are classical feats with 2 plates that are even slower than this one and that has even less range control, but that can still work fine in a gang. And yes, like this is pretty much the standard Punisher, more or less. So you can fit the tank a bit differently, but that's the only variation you will usually find. Or you can fit an afterburner, and then you can like have even more tank. But the problem is, as you've said very well, Rico, is if you fit the Punisher in the standard and expected way, there is no way you're gonna win solo engagements unless your opponent just stays there for some reason.
Unless you're fighting someone who maybe doesn't quite know what they're doing, yeah.
Yes, but like pretty much everyone wants to fight a Punisher. That's the great thing about the ship.
Yeah, you're gonna get fights with it.
Yeah, there is no reason not to fight a Punisher, like they shouldn't be. But usually experienced PvPers will always expect the Punisher to be very tanky, high DPS, close range, or maybe if it has lasers it will still have very high DPS in scrummage. So they will go for the Punisher and they will just scram kite it because it has no real range bonus. It's always safe. And then you're gonna, if you're alone in a tanky Punisher, you will always lose that way, or your opponent is just gonna whoop out eventually.
It's just gonna bail out.
You will not be able to hold him. So I guess this kind of Punisher can only be used in conjunction with other ships.
With other ships
but
in a gang.
If you use other ships, it's one of the best gang ships, to be honest, of this like blaster gangs, just because with the amount of low slots you have and a nice tank and a very, very high DPS. And yeah, the 10k EHP above 200 DPS for Tech 1 freaks that cost 10 million ISK the fit is very, very good, and everybody wants to fight it really. So you will get a lot of fights with that. But if you want to go solo, you have to like completely break this approach. Even if you do gimmicky stuff, like even if you put 2 webs on your Punisher and just sit at 0 in plexus, you will not hold scram kiters long enough to kill them usually. So you actually have to like go for a complete different approach, play mind games with people that expect this fit, and bring another one. And I guess that's what we're gonna see next. The 3 fits we're gonna see next.
So with the 2 mid slots we are quite limited here, but yeah, with this fleet fit, I mean, obviously, like on paper here we have pretty much everything that you want. We have good tank, we have good DPS, but then the range control thing is obviously not quite there. But you know, as we said, if you're in a gang, then you can get around that problem by just switching out your tackle here with your other gang members, so that you have all of that covered and you have, you know, enough webs, enough scrams, etc., etc. But let's go and take a look at our wannabe slicer Punisher here. So this is our kitey Punisher. So we're getting around our range control problem here by staying out of tackle range for scram kiters. So here we're fitting 2 nanofibers. We're fitting a cap power relay just to give us a little bit more cap, because we are using lasers here. We are using a point and MWD. So anytime you're flying like a point kiter, you're always pretty much going to run into cap problems, especially with these frigates that don't necessarily have, a hell of a lot of cap kicking around. Let's go and load this fit up here. I guess, are we mostly going to use standard with this Methea? Can we mostly get away with hitting people with standard with this fit?
I think you can use ultraviolet a lot.
Okay.
It will still hit to 20 kilometers, so you should be fine with that, because this is mostly a ship that to trick other people that have either AB or relatively slow MWD fits.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of they will all expect the tanky Punisher that just sits there like a brick and can't do anything, and that they can scram kite all day.
Yeah,
and
that's...
they come into you, and then they are just completely defenseless, because this thing is actually almost as fast as a slicer.
Mm-hmm.
It is a bit more agile even than a slicer. Surprisingly, it certainly doesn't have the damage of the slicer, but it has very nice damage. It hits like way above 100 DPS in point range, so that's a pretty nice DPS for a point counter. And you should have, like, you have enough agility and speed to have range control over everything, or to just run away if you need. So this is actually a ship I would recommend for learning kiting, because it's very cheap. It can engage a lot of target, especially in low sec. It's still good enough against some drone ships. You can still kill drones and then kite drone ships, or you can just go point blank on kitey Tristans, for example, and speed tank their drone damage for a bit. It's a very all-round ship, very flexible. You can actually flight a lot of stuff, and you can pretty much fight all the stuff, all the standard
sort of fits.
Yeah, the standard fits, yeah. And they will all want to fight you. So this ship has a very, very good synergy, I feel, with other people's expectations.
Yeah.
Meaning that you can, this fit can, for example, with like some careful piloting, you can easily kill a Daredevil, for example.
A Daredevil, okay. Like Daredevil can like web out to like 18k or something. Isn't that going to be a little bit dangerous for you if you're like trying to kite at like 20k? I guess you're going to load Aurora in that situation and stay further away.
I don't think you should compare Tech 1 10 million frigates to a pirate freak
That's true,
fitted with a faction web.
Yeah.
But even then, you definitely can kill it. Just like either be very careful, like either gamble on him not having a faction web, that's like possible.
Yeah.
Or just you can stay outside, so you will definitely go with standard there and hit your point a lot, and you can control an afterburner Daredevil. There is some things that are quite tricky with this fit. That's why I've put a metastasis rig on it. For example, you could go for a third locus like you usually use on slicers. Here it has a metastasis rig just to give that small extra bit of tracking, so you can run around and kill the drones of your opponent reliably.
Yep.
For example, and if you're forced, for example, if your opponent has very slow drones, you can choose to orbit around him and slow down a little bit your ship, but still be faster than his drones, and then you can just safely hit him that way. So you don't even have to kill the drones. You can just orbit him, and like, for example, if it's a thorax with hammerheads or something like that, and you still want an extra tracking, because if you don't have it, you'll just miss hits, even on a destroyer and even on a cruiser. You will not do enough damage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that's why you also have a cap bubble relay, because on a slicer you have the slicer has fits pretty much in the same way, but the slicer has double the damage. So on the slicer you can afford actually not being cap stable, because you killed stuff very, very fast. With this you are grinding.
You're
slowly,
relying more on...
Especially if you're kiting an AB armor tanked frigate and you do mostly EM DPS with ranged crystals. So you're not shooting in their resist. So you're grinding really slowly. That's why you need to be cap stable with point, MWD, and gear guns.
Yeah.
And one thing to know is you will not repair much just because you have no cap. So if you have to repair something, drop the point. Make sure you use the crystal that uses the lowest cap possible. So that's going to be standard. And you will not use all your ancillary ever. But that's pretty much the same with a slicer. You will pulse it 2 times, 3 times, and then your cap is dead.
And like you say with this fit, if people are seeing a Punisher sitting in a Plex, they're pretty much going to assume that you're maybe a bait Punisher or a tanky Punisher, because not a lot of people are flying a kitey Punisher. I can honestly say I've never seen a kitey Punisher. I have flown this fit, but I've never actually encountered one myself. So definitely people are not going to expect you to be in this. So they're going to come into the Plex. You're already going to be sitting there at range where you need to be, and you can quite easily set up your orbit on them and get your point going, and away you go. You can grind them down that way. Let's go and take a look now at our first 10 meganewton fit. So this is 10 MN with a point, and we are using artillery on this fit. Now I have used this fit before. You can see me using this fit in my Let's Play. I think I only did one fight with it, which I didn't do quite so well in. I got webbed by a rifter, I think, and I think part of the reason was I got capped out, and also I maybe didn't run the AB quite as quickly as I should have. But the general idea of this fit is that we're going to, I guess, try and sort of scram kite, and against some things, from what I've gathered, you can sort of fight in web range with this, but I guess it's going to depend what you're fighting. If you're fighting a faster frigate like an Atron, or a faction or pirate frigate or something, you're probably just going to want to bail, to be honest, with a pirate frigate. It depends what it is, but yeah, the general idea with this fit is that we're going to try and scram kite somewhat. It is kind of hard to hold people with this fit, especially because we're using a warp disruptor here. So if it's an MWD guy, well, you really have no chance of holding him. He's just going to get out. It's going to be a lot more agile and a lot more quick. But generally, we can scram kite pretty well with this, because we do have some tank. We do have pretty decent tank. We can rep actually fairly hard here. Let's go and load our nanite paste up here. And we have pretty decent DPS with some nice alpha for breaking active tanks here with the artillery and 4 280mm howitzer artillery guns here in the high slots. Let's go and throw some phase plasma in there. So there you can see, yeah, we are getting 125 DPS. And what's the alpha with the arty fit, Methea?
It's about 900 alpha. It's it's a nice alpha against active armor tanked frigate. So it's gonna chew through most armor buffers.
So basically, if you get like three or four
each shot,
if you get 3 or 4 good hits on something that's active tank, you're pretty much gonna blow through its rep cycle, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And this also relies partly on the psychological Punisher effect. So as usually people fighting a Punisher will want to pull range as soon as possible from you.
Mm-hmm.
You are also using it at your advantage, because you at range, this is where you do where you apply the best, and this is where you can control the fight. So what you usually want is you usually want to go away from your opponent, but keep an eye on it, and when he tries to go away, make sure that you don't get out of your point range, and that you come back. A nice thing is usually to stay around the hot web range of your enemy, so you cast in and out, and he's gonna burn his mid slots with it, because you're basically ignoring it pretty much, because you're Tenemen.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to do a lot of stuff, like he has to hit and unhit his mid slots, and he might very well burn mid slots there if you're going against a standard AB web scram fit. And of course there is also the effect of surprise, because for example, if you die into a Plex, people will start the fight, and when people they will set a keep at range or an orbit on you. And at the start, since your agility is very low with a Teneman, it's gonna take more than 10 seconds for you to start getting reasonable speed. So in the 10 first seconds, you're gonna behave just as your enemy wants.
Just as they're kind of expecting you, in a sort of standard
and then
sort of
after
fit.
10 seconds, a lot of people will not realize, but stuff is gonna change. So suddenly, so they pulled range. Now they seen that you're artillery fit. Okay, they try to get under your guns, and they close in fast, and then suddenly they are not closing in at all. And so if you fly it well, Tenements will surprise a lot of people. It's kind of tricky to really
It is kind of tricky to fly, yeah.
Even for example, if you're in the dual web ship, I've had that happen to me. Being in the dual web ship and fighting this kind of Tenemen long range guns fit, is at the start everything goes as you expect, and then suddenly boom, they are hitting you and they're actually pulling range, and you're dead before you can actually react. So if you keep if your opponent just keeps orbit on you and expects being out tracking you while he's basically just following you at a lower speed when you reach your cruise speed with the Tenement. And one thing you really have to, these ships are tricky to fly, because you have to anticipate all your movements for at least 10 seconds.
Yeah, because the align time on it really moves like a school bus, doesn't it? Yeah.
So if you start by panic aligning out, and if you see yourself at 18 kilometers, and then you think, oh, I'm gonna lose point, it's already too late. You should have thought about it earlier. So because by the time you will turn your enemy, even if he's only AB, he's just gonna be way out there. So you have to really try to stay in this kind of in between. I would say somewhere in hot web or a bit out of
you want to be
hot
floating
web.
around in between, in the point where they're kind of having to really manage their tackle and making sure that they keep things on you by heating and having to activate and deactivate things as you like float in and out of range. And yeah, with this fit, it is quite hard. It can be quite hard to hold tackle, and it's kind of where you want to sort of maybe have an idea of how your opponent is going to fight as well, whether they're going to be aggressive and really try to get at you, or whether they're going to be, a little bit more cautious with you and potentially try and run away or whatever, and where you might want to be a little bit more aggressive in staying within their tackle and keeping your own point on them. Let's go and look at our 10MN laser fit now here. This one is going to be using a scram, so a little bit different here. It does mean that we can fight things with a MWD. Let's go and load our lasers up here. So of course we are using lasers with this. What am I doing here? Are we going to be using multi with this mostly?
Actually, these are dual lights, so multi doesn't reach as far as with small focused beams. So usually you'll probably be safe using gamma, but it's gonna be either multi or gamma. Like, it's laser, so you can switch very fast. So get used to you. It's gonna, of course, depends. If you go into someone in a plex, you will start with multi. If you're like actually starting a bit at range, you might want to go with gamma straight. And this is
a fairly decent DPS, I guess, with gamma here.
It's like this ship has a very nice ratio. If you look at it, this ship has 9k EHP total tank, or 8k EHP total tank, and it has about 170 DPS hot with gamma, a bit more with multi-frequency. And with the 10MN, it kinda has range control on some things. At least it's not gonna be out-tracked. So if you do it right, the ratio is pretty scary for most other ships. So you can, and yeah, one thing I forgot to say, actually, we could have said that for the previous one. There is a magic in 10MN ships, is that rocket ships do not apply to it, like almost at all.
Right.
So if you
because you're always going to have quite a high sort of max velocity.
Yes, exactly. Like, even if they web you, the rockets will, like, I have to look at the charts. Like, you can do that with Python, but I would expect the rocket to apply only for 30% of their damage or something like that. It's really close.
Okay.
If you get your speed high, when you get your speed high, you're not gonna get damaged. And even dual web ships will have range control on you, but if you just align out, you will still probably track them, and they, especially if they start using rage on you, they are not gonna do damage at all to you. So there is some magic with 10MN with that. But this ship is, like, obviously it's pretty much the same as the previous one, but this time we stay in scram range, so that means that we even have less room for maneuvering. Though we need it less, we have much better tracking here. We have much better DPS. We also have better tank. So overall, the two ships are kind of close, and you can use one then another. These ships are used. You will sometimes fight these ships, but I guess they are pretty rare, as you said. Like, even the Slicer Punisher is quite known.
Literally the only Punisher I've ever found is like a tanky Punisher, or just an unfit Punisher or something stupid like that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Like, or just a stabbed Punisher, like with 5 stabs in the leg.
5-stab Punisher.
But that's the Punisher magic. So everybody loves Punisher because they think that, like, obviously you read everywhere that the Punisher is the worst ship in the game, and it kind of is. And like for that reason, it's actually a surprisingly good ship.
It's a good ship because it's considered the worst ship in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, it's not only considered, like, it's not only that, it's still a ship that has good cap, good tank, and it has 5 low slots. So despite not having 3 mid slots, which would make it like really completely oppressive, despite not having 3 mid slots, you can do a lot of stuff with it if you're clever enough and if you pilot a bit.
Yeah, I mean, as you've seen with all of the fits that we've shown here, they're all very capable of doing things if you have just a little bit of knowledge about what you're fighting and about what you're doing, and just generally, like, you know, even if you don't maybe know so much what your opponent is going to try and do, you can just keep in your mind what you need to do in the fight and where you need to be, and just, you know, concentrate on having your ship in the position to do what it does best. And with this 10M, with the laser 10MN Punisher here, it's maybe a little bit more versatile in that, you know, if you find something that's dual web or that is going to catch you, you can actually track it when it gets to you. Plus you have lasers here, which, you know, are pretty nice in that you can switch ammo like bang absolutely instantaneously. You've also got obviously great DPS with it, and also great tank with it, like if we unload all of our Ansil charges here, we're going to get 8k tank, which is pretty nice for a Tech 1 frigate. And then, you know, with the 10MN here, we have quite a bit of speed, so we can pull out of range of some things as well, and you have potentially the option to disengage from fights as well, you know, if things perhaps aren't going quite your way.
Don't forget that you only need to scram your opponent if you need to hold it or if you need to shut off his MWD. But a tournament ship is a very viable ship if you fight against a gang, and then you kind of you can, like with this ship, you can fight outnumbered and just use the scram at the very end to go for the kill.
Just
like if you fight a gang of AB frigates, you can
just sort of fight a line
get some
and off you go.
ridiculous skills with this kind of fits, just because people are not used to oversized prop mods, and they will just not understand what's happening. Like if you know what to expect, but they just pile in at you and think that, okay, they have you tackled, so you should just stop, but you're still going the same speed as they are, and then they're like completely lost, not applying anything.
Yeah, I've had some pretty funny fights with oversized prop mod ships, with people just not understanding what's happening and being like, yeah, I had you tackled, how, you know, are you hacking the game, what's going on? Like you can do some really pretty entertaining things with oversized prop mod ships, especially on something like a Punisher, which, as we said, it's not a very common fit at all, and it's really not something that people are going to expect you to sort of be in.
Yes, exactly.
So that's the 4 fits that we have for the Punisher here. So we've got the Fleet Punisher, and then the Slicer Punisher here, and the 2 10MN Punishers here, of course. So lots of fun fits for you to go and play with the Punisher there. And I guess you've kind of got a bit of an understanding now about how you can get around the main problems that you immediately see with the Punisher here, with mainly with having only the two mid slots there. Methea, do you have any final words on the Punisher here?
I think not in detail, but just in general, I think it's a very, very good way to learn the game, to fly these kind of ships that people underrate a lot, that are very engageable, and that you can actually tweak a bit to your own playstyle. Like, all these feats are open. There is a reason for like pretty much each module in each of these feats, but that doesn't mean that it's the only choice. So you can tweak them and have, like with the Punisher, you can have pretty much your own special Punisher that nobody really expects, and you can get good at flying it, and you will get a lot of content out of it. And you will be fighting people in pretty much unexpected configurations in the end, and that will learn you a lot, because you will see that like some player will just fall apart, but some other players will like just immediately read in your book, even though you bring something that they haven't fought before. So it makes very interesting fights. And overall, I think it's a great approach to the game to try these. They are obviously fragile. You will make mistakes with them, and you will die, but you will have good fun in the process. So go for it.
Yeah, definitely. The Punisher is a ship that I have had a hell of a lot of fun flying, and particularly the 10MN fits, where it's a little bit different. It's something that not a lot of people have maybe seen, and it is quite fun to sort of align out in a fight, turn on your AB, and someone goes to tackle you, and you just heat your prop and laugh at them as you pull range and hopefully end up with some nice kills. So Methea, once again, thanks for coming on and talking Punishers with me.
Thanks for having me, Rico.
And thank you very much for watching. So from myself and Methea Selenis, remember, as always, fly dangerous.